So, what's next? Let's take a look. Oh, great. Well, speaking of out of touch men with dangerous ideals of masculinity, from Issac Butterfield, a transgender athlete's dangerous. Now, look, the reason I cover Issac on my channel so much is because he's the largest Australian political YouTube channel. And a lot of people don't even acknowledge the fact that he is a political channel. In fact, in a lot of websites and such that will list the largest Australian YouTubers, his name's not even mentioned. He is one of the largest Australian YouTubers. The largest, I think, has about 6 million subs, maybe not quite that much. But he's massive. 1.6 now, 1.6 million. Like, when people think about Australian YouTubers, they think of people like Friendly Geordies. Now, like, a lot of Issac's content is like stupid shit, like reacting to like cringy teens on TikTok. So that's probably why people don't pick up on it. But when he's out there making videos like a transgender athlete's dangerous, it's extremely political. And this is a lot of his channel's content. There's more political content on his channel than apolitical. Especially when it comes to transgender people. He has it really out for them. And if you don't believe me, if you think that I'm just being some kind of woke lefty, well then, perhaps one video like this is just asking questions, are transgender athletes dangerous? And sure, I'd give you that, if it wasn't for the myriad of other transphobic content he's posted on his channel. For instance, he's had an interview with Abigail Schreier, author of the pseudoscience-filled book Irreversible Damage, a book that's about trans men and trans boys, and just basically lies about how these girls are trans trending, they're going through these irreversible changes that do damage to their body, they're just doing it to be popular. Abigail Schreier is a known hack. Her book has no basis in modern science. If that wasn't enough, he's also done an interview with Ariel Scarcella, a notorious transphobe who left the left due to its woke ideology on trans people. I know, she just didn't like the fact that trans people were included in feminism. In particular, trans women. He's also done other videos on trans people in media. There was a video he put out complaining about Star Wars going to have a transgender Jedi. He's done another video, which I want to look at some stage, which I haven't watched, about transgender inmates in prison. So yeah, not looking good. But hey, let's see if he answers the question, are transgender athletes dangerous?
G'day you good motherfuckers, this is an interesting story. Transgender athlete Hannah Mounsey, who in 2013 played at the Men's Handball Championship in Spain, who stands 6'3", which is about up to here on me, and weighs almost as much as me, who also bench presses 150 fucking kilos and squats over 200 kilos, is planning to sue an Australian football code after they didn't allow her to play in the female competition. But more on that in just a little while. Let me just jump in before everyone starts freaking out in the trans community that I'm attacking transgender people. No, that is not what I'm doing in this video at all.
Mate, it doesn't work when you've done other videos like the one I've just described. When you've interviewed people like Schreier on your channel. You don't get to be like, now hang on, hear me out. You have a history of transphobia. It doesn't work like that, mate. If you hang around with transphobes, if you say transphobic shit, and if you make transphobic videos, we're gonna call you transphobic. Doesn't matter what you say in this shit like, hear me out. If you already have a history, sorry mate, we're gonna judge.
If you are like Hannah and you are transitioning from male to female or female to male, or you're hanging out in the middle and you're floating around, all the power to your sister, brother, or whatever you...
Liar! Sorry, that was too loud and it's really early in the morning, so... My neighbor, I can't wake them up. But yeah, fucking liar.
Want me to call you. You do you. Do whatever you want to do. Fuck whoever you want. As long as it is not hurting anybody, I do not give a flying fuck. But unfortunately, when it comes to sport...
Countdown to Fallon Fox.
Having a transgender athlete playing against biological women, people can get hurt. That is a fact, and there is no way getting around that. Oh, and by the way...
No, it's actually not a factor. The Olympic Games Commission has a policy where transgender women need to be on hormones or hormone replacement therapy for at least a year. There was a study that came out last year which found that may need to be changed to 2 years. So, yeah, like we already have things in place that equal the playing field. So no, people aren't getting hurt. Yes, you can find isolated incidents, like Fallon Fox, where a cisgender woman has been injured competing against a transgender woman. But in fields like, for instance, Fallon Fox's, was it UFC? I think it was UFC. It was MMA. People get hurt in that all the time, regardless of their gender. So yes, you can find these isolated incidents, but the majority of transgender athletes don't have some super advantage over cisgender athletes.
Completely off topic. If you go to my Instagram at @theButtsman and go and find the thumbnail of this video, which I posted now, you will go into the draw. All you have to do is comment below the thumbnail. People to the video.
Transgender MMA fighter has said she wants a license to
Can't miss!
fight.
This all fucking sucks. It really does, because these aren't bad people. These are people who are just trying to live their best lives and move on with their lives after their transition. And I respect that, and I really do wish them all the best. I fucking hate it when people say I hate transgender people. It's fucking banana.
You've made videos that are transphobic. You've spoken to prominent transphobes. You don't get to throw up your hands and say, I don't know why, where people get this idea about me. You've put out videos where you've said transphobic shit. You've spoken to transphobes. You're a fucking weaselly little liar. And more than bigots, I hate liars.
Honest. But there's something very...
Oh shit. Did the stream die? Okay, no, sorry. I think it died for a moment. Oh, sorry. Alright, back to the video. We're only 2 minutes in, for Christ's sake. We gotta get through this.
Unfair when it comes to previously male people, now female people competing in female sports. It's just something unfair about it. It doesn't happen the other way around though, which is sort of a little bit funny. Like there's no previously female people, now male people competing against men and fucking dominating. As soon as that happens, I'll shut the fuck up. I will shut the fuck up. If you were...
Like, for instance, in weightlifting, they don't let trans men compete if they're on testosterone. Maybe that's why there's no trans men dominating. And this idea, like, trans women aren't dominating women's sports. It's not a thing. Yes, you can find isolated incidents where trans women have won.
Once a man and lived your life as a man, and then became a woman and compete against women.
They didn't become... Oh, look who he's quoting. Russia Today. Nice. Reliable news source.
You have an advantage. There's no hiding from that. There are...
No, it's just your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. The evidence that's out there shows that after 1, maybe 2 years of HRT, playing field levels. I'm sorry. You can cry all you want. You're going to provide any evidence, or just common sense?
Currently, approximately 10,000 men in the United States alone that can run faster than the fastest woman over 100 meters. 10,000. Serena Williams, the best, the greatest tennis player of all time in the female division, wouldn't even be ranked in the top 500 when it comes to the best men playing tennis right now. But of course, there are people who disagree with me, mainly on Twitter, shall we? A few notes on women and girls who are trans in sports. There is a relentless effort to situation trans people as a threat to cis people in sport and elsewhere. There is simply no threat. I disagree, but I'll get to that.
Oh, I'd like to see if you have any evidence, because especially when we're just talking about your average everyday people competing in sports, no, there's not some huge advantage. When we talk about like these periods of HRT we need to be on for like a year or 2 years, this is at the elite level. The study I talked about before that recommended it might need to be changed to 2 years, that was done on Marines. People who like are very like are almost, you know, elite athlete level fit. Like aside from Olympians, the next most fit profession would probably be soldiers. So like these recommendations are for the elite levels when those percentage points count. But for just someone playing like weekend football, no. There's not this huge advantage. And I'm going to shut up because we're only 3 minutes in, so I want to see what kind of evidence he brings, if any.
The foundation of those arguments are based on two dangerous and faulty premises. First, that men and boys are always better, stronger, faster, and more skilled than women and girls. Well, on average they are, but anyway, whatever. Second, that sex categories are binary, fixed, and easily identifiable at birth. Well,
Indeed.
in most cases, 99.9% they are, but
No.
anyway, both of these premises are rooted in misogyny and white supremacy. You can tell this person's a fucking idiot. The interest behind these narratives...
Look, Chase is right, but optically, that looks terrible to people like Isaac. He's not going to listen when you talk about misogyny and white supremacy. Listen, like, I talk about that with my audience because this is my channel. You're coming here to see me. But if you're trying to... Like, the people that he's tweeting to already agree with him. People like Isaac who are going to read that, it's just going to go over their heads. If you're trying to appeal to people like him, then you need to adjust your language.
Is not protecting women, but rather protecting the power of the state to control people's bodies and constrain people's identities.
Optics.
That's fucking hilarious, mate. I don't know anything about you, but I don't want to know anything about you. You sound like a fucking idiot. They said that there is no threat. And I sort of agree to some extent. I don't think there is a threat to women in women's sports from transgender athletes. They're not going out there to hurt them. Well, unless it's a contact sport, which is really the only one that I give a shit about. If you're a transgender athlete and you're running 100-meter races and you're beating the women, or you're not, I don't give a fuck. Or you're throwing shot puts, I don't give a fuck. Or you're doing high jumps, who gives a fuck, right? But when you are doing things like competing in MMA and living most of your life as a man and then beating the fuck out of women, I have an issue with that. Or playing rugby league, right? I played rugby league for 17 years. I guarantee you, and this is not a call out, but I guarantee you that I could fucking destroy the Australian women's rugby league team. Sorry, it's just fucking true. The same goes for sports like AFL, NFL, boxing, or anything where people are coming into contact with each other. There are a lot of sports out there where there is an imminent threat of danger, fucking injury, or even death. And that is where I have an issue with people who have lived their entire lives as men then competing against women. I don't think that's outrageous to say. If you live most of your life...
Can we have some evidence, please?
...as a man and then become a woman, even though you change your hormones, you will have had an extraordinary amount of physical advantages given to you because you were a man. For example, men on average have a heavier skeletal mass than women. This matters when you're getting punched in the face. Biomechanically speaking, men have longer legs, which in turn allows them to grow more muscle on those legs. A man's leg on average is 80% muscle, whereas a woman's is only 60%. Mass times acceleration equals a fuck ton more force. That's why in male sports the collisions are bigger.
Hello? When you go on HRT, you lose muscle mass. And yes, something like skeletal structure does not change. But the evidence already shows that just having a bigger frame doesn't give you an advantage. It's like having a big frame with a small engine. If you can't move that frame, you can't use that frame. And this is only speaking on people who have transitioned as an adult. I wonder if he's going to address it. The transgender children who have never gone through the puberty that for the gender they were assigned at birth. I wonder if he's going to talk about them being shut out from sport, because this same argument, this same pseudoscience is being used to prevent children from competing against each other. And that's a bit a problem. When it comes to adults, yes, we do need research. We need to make sure that everyone's safe and it is a level playing field. The information we're going off now create certain parameters to ensure it does, and that's fine. When it comes to children, though, no big deal. If a trans girl has never gone through any aspect of male puberty, she's identical to a cisgender woman. In every respect. There's no advantage whatsoever. But I wonder if those children being discriminated against is going to be mentioned in his video. Let's find out.
That's just it. Women also tend to have wider hips, which means they're not as efficient at running as men. I'm not being sexist here, this is fucking biology. Which I know a lot of you freak out about anyway, but
Don't quote biology, mate.
men also have bigger hearts. Men also have more red blood cells, which allows more oxygenated blood to get to muscles and perform better. Women, on average, have smaller lungs than men do, meaning their maximal oxygen consumption, their VO2 max, is lower. That's from the Journal of Medicine and Science in Sport and Exercise. I know this is all biology, and I know that biology is a myth, but hear me out. These are fucking facts that you cannot get away from, and this is why it is unfair for transgender women to play sports or compete in sports or fight women. I'm sorry. I know it sucks, and it must fucking suck to be in your position. I cannot imagine that, but that is the truth of the matter. Which brings...
Mate, that doesn't work. If you want to quote statistics and studies, you need to be quoting studies that support your argument. You need to be quoting studies that have been conducted on transgender athletes. You can't just be like, men have bigger hearts, therefore trans athletes bad. No. Come on. The science that's out there right now on transgender athletes suggests that after a year on HRT, maybe 2, at the elite level, it levels the playing field. You can quote biology all you want, but the science on transgender athletes does not agree. The science on transgender athletes supports them competing in the sport of their gender. So this shit about like, oh, I'm just quoting biology, you're demonstrating a rather embarrassing lack of understanding of the very biology that you're referencing.
Brings me to Hannah Mounsey.
Here
Transgender
we go.
footballer Hannah Mounsey is planning legal action against the AFL and its gender diversity policy in an attempt to play top-level footy in Canberra. Mounsey was not allowed to enter the AFL women's draft in 2017, but was permitted to play at the VFL level. That's fucking weird. Why would you allow her to do one thing but not the other? Maybe she does have a case against the AFL. Her concerns are based around the policy surrounding trans athletes. Testosterone levels have to be below 5 nanomoles, something moles, for up to 2 years prior, which is actually twice than the highest level of female athletes. But whatever, that doesn't really matter. The transgender athlete has been reaping the benefits of testosterone for years. What's another 2 years? Other parts of the policy included height and weight, bench press testing, and other periodic testing, which is strange. I don't know why that matters, because there are women that are stronger than other women, and it's a very strange and sort of hairy-fairy area, if you will. But this isn't Hannah's first time in front of the world's eye.
What? Did she meet that requirement? Is that threshold... Like, is that threshold based on science, or just what... It's just based on discrimination? Are you going to talk about that?
She was on a 60 Minutes episode just a couple of years ago.
I bet she was.
At 6'2", weighing 100 kilos and blessed with a mighty kicking boot, Hannah Mounsey should have been a shoo-in to play at the elite level of the women's Aussie Rules competition. But late last year, the AFL said no.
Again, said no, but then said they can play in another competition. That really confuses me. Either it's a no or a yes. Simple.
Deciding she was too much of a physical threat to her opponents. Hannah believes there's another reason though. The fact she was born a boy, not a girl.
Well, obviously, but also she was born a boy, grew up as a boy and lived many years as a man. Went to the World Championships as a man, was an athlete as a man. Then became a woman, which is wonderful, mind you. But I just think you're being a bit disingenuous in the way you're phrasing that opening statement.
Ah. They're the ones being disingenuous. You're not the one being disingenuous or ignoring the science on trans people. Which says, again, 1 to 2 years on HRT levels the playing field.
They don't want me involved. They never wanted me to involved, and they never wanted me to play. So, you know, I mean, if everything they did to wear me down and basically get me, and me being the problem, to go away, they did.
And that must be heartbreaking for you, Hannah, and it must be for a lot of transgender athletes facing these difficulties as well. But the fact of the matter remains that you have a distinct advantage over the biological women that you're competing against, and that is... It sucks. It just sucks. It sucks. All right, that's all it does.
How many years has she been on HRT? Are you gonna fucking mention that? Fuck me. Quit this fucking virtue signaling, you little weasel. Stop trying to be like, oh, I'm here for trans people. Like, I'm just saying facts. It's not hate to speak the truth. Fuck. Just say what you're really thinking. You're disgusted by trans people.
It sucks for you and them and all that type of stuff, but you cannot escape the facts in this situation. Having a much larger former male person competing against women who don't sign up for that particular thing. If you want to sign up for it and allow Hannah to come in, cool, wonderful, fantastic. But if they don't sign up for it, then I understand why they would be concerned.
As Hannah sees it, the problem the AFL has with her is simple. She used to be Callum. He was also an elite athlete and even played handball for Australia. But in 2015, Callum became Hannah.
2015, late 2015, okay? Almost 2016, and Hannah was born in 1989, which means for the first 27 years of her life, she reaped the rewards, particularly after puberty, of testosterone and built her body into a fucking giant's body. For over a quarter of a century, she benefited from having a male's endocrine system. She benefited from it. It was like taking some type of performance-enhancing drug. She benefited from that. But ladies and gentlemen, I really want to know your opinion on this video, because I don't want to go on. I don't want to be just a piece of shit and attack this one person. I just want to know what you think down below in the comment section. Let's sort of try and work this out. Because I think, obviously, Hannah needs to... She wants to play sport. She should be allowed to play sport. Do you have a competition just for transgender athletes? But there's not enough transgender athletes to maintain a competition. Do you have the women sign a waiver? Is there insurance issues? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But also, make sure you head to the Instagram.
No, shut the fuck up. Well, let's see what people are saying. I'm sure it's going to be a bastion of human civility. White supremacy? Really? Is there literally nothing that can't be blamed on white supremacy? No. Trust the science. Unless it isn't in our favor, then don't. Oh, all these people. My God. As a transgender female myself, if you want to do sports, compete with men. Complete with men, pardon. How do you do, fellow trans women? Zuby broke women's weightlifting record because he was joking. Because he jokingly said he identifies as a woman only when he lifts. Yeah, we'll talk about Zuby sometime. Trans athletes need their own categories. Anything else is unfair. There's not enough transgender athletes. I love watching equal rights group on step on other equal rights groups. Rip to women's sports. Everyone too scared to address this soon. So soon, there's going to be so many. Female rugby team when Hannah joins the team. We weren't expecting special forces. Okay. I'm sorry, but you're talking from your feelings. The science that exists on transgender athletes, and I will admit there needs to be more done. We need more research into this field. What exists suggests that at an elite level, it's recommended that trans people are on HRT for at least 1, possibly 2 years. And that after that, the sports commission, the sports boards or whatever, decide that that's enough, that that's fair for them to compete against cisgender women. And that's the idea that trans women will always have, or inherently have, these superior values. Well, guess what? There's going to be some women who are born with a bigger heart, who have longer legs. There's going to be people, regardless of your gender, who are just naturally gifted with attributes that improve their physicality. And you can't say that a trans person will always have those advantages. And even if they do have some, guess what? The science says that they're mitigated. I'm sorry. You can argue with me, you can argue with your feelings, but you can't argue with science. And again, this isn't even mentioning the same bullshit and bigotry that's been used to justify outlawing transgender athletes competing, transgender children competing with other children. Fucked up. Let kids be kids.